Back again, huh? You do know that you could read these stories yourself, but I suppose that is the curse of my sultry voice. This first story is called A Brief Encounter with Something Strange. I've always had trouble sleeping. Between my history of insomnia, a recent breakup, and starting a new job, I was disappointed but unsurprised when I woke up around 2 a.m. a week ago. I made a half-hearted attempt to get back to sleep, but my bladder had other ideas. As I stepped back into the bedroom after relieving myself, a white light caught my eye. It's not unusual for lights from my PC or the streetlights outside to shine into my bedroom from the living room, but this was much brighter, and it was a natural white. It was streaming in through the blinds of my window. My immediate thought was that it must be a car outside. As I woke up a bit more, I realized that the light was coming from above the window. I walked over and parted the blinds slightly. Nothing seemed out of place on the street. I scanned down the road and up the road before turning my gaze upwards, and I found the source of the light. It was a distant figure that was small in stature and floating well above the rooftops. I wasn't entirely certain if it was a child or something else. Its skin was gray and pale, and it didn't appear to be wearing any clothing. The figure looked thin. Its eyes were beyond black. They were voids. It was as if this figure had two black holes for eyes. To its left was a tractor trailer. It seemed to me that it was looking at it intently. The trailer was floating perfectly still with a dim white halo around it. The truck was dangling by its fifth wheel from the trailer. I watched transfixed for ages as the figure performed an inspection of the truck, spinning it as needed to observe every surface. As I looked on, I noticed that the figure wasn't in any sort of craft. It appeared to only have its bubble of light around it. I also observed that there wasn't a bit of light coming from anywhere else in the neighborhood, except for this figure. Even the 24-hour gas station and convenience store down the hill was pitch black. I turned my gaze back to the figure. It was now looking at me. The truck gently descended as the light behind the figure formed a spotlight. It crept across the street and toward my house. I was frozen in place. The light moved up my front steps, and as it reached the doorknob lock and deadbolt snapped to the locked position. I was able to tear myself away from the sight of the thing and try the door, but the locks wouldn't budge. I sprinted back to my bedroom. I kept a revolver in a lockbox in the closet. Gun in hand, I cautiously moved back into the living room. I remember nothing else. Everything went dark. I awoke the next morning on the floor in the living room. I was bleeding from my nose. The gun was clutched in my right hand. I opened the cylinder. 2 rounds had been fired. I put it back in the box and headed outside. There was debris everywhere. One of my next-door neighbors came out and commented on the storm that had happened the night before. Apparently it knocked out power for the whole block. Since then, I've been unable to sleep through the night. I never got nosebleeds before, but now I experience one a day for at least a few minutes. I've also noticed people treating me differently. Everyone is cordial, but no one seems willing to engage me in conversation for more than a few words. I feel like they're looking at me when I'm not focused on them. I don't really know how to process things. That ended far too soon. That one was quite intriguing. I like the build-up. Good atmosphere. But let me know what you thought in the comments beneath. I suppose it's called 3 stories, so I may as well give you some more. This story is called Echoes from the Abyss, a COMATOSE revelation. For a year, I was trapped in a never-ending nightmare. I felt stuck with no solution. When I finally came to, I was greeted by my mother, crying and hugging me. According to the nurses, she had been by my side every single day. After I was informed about the accident, the relief of finally being out of that painfully long, terrifying dream finally made me calm down. As I lay my head to get some rest, my mother finally left the room to thank all the nurses for the help. While she was gone, I looked at my mom's phone and saw the playlist she's been playing for me. 9 hours of nightmare-inducing music. My face turns pale as I realize those were the sounds that haunted me during my year-long coma. Well then, short but certainly far from sweet. That one was intriguing. Simple but horrifying. What would you think if you found yourself in such a situation? Let me know in the comments. Well, I suppose I'll give you your last story now. This one is called I'm Always Paying the Restaurant Bill. I'm always paying the restaurant bill, and I am getting sick of it. My friends and I always have a great time, but when we do, we head out to a restaurant, and I'm always the one stuck paying. I really didn't mind it at first, but for once I would just love for someone else to pay. After every activity that we do, we tend to like to get a bite to eat. We love eating at restaurants, but when the check comes, they all just look at me. I am the one who earns the most, so the bill always is expected to be my duty. It's starting to ruffle my feathers a bit. They always say that because I earn the most, it just makes the most sense for me to pay. I remember one time my friends and I went to a restaurant after a traumatic event. The traumatic event was when my friends had slept over at my house, and we were all going out together. One of my friends had an online job interview on Zoom, and he was using my laptop. As the interview had started online, the interviewer suddenly pulled out a gun, and my friend was scared. The interviewer was pointing the gun at him. Then we were all scared. What's going on here? Close the laptop, one of my friends said. Are you sure you can close that quick enough before the bullet reaches you? The employer had said. What's going on here? The employer said he wanted me to cut my friend's eyes out, the one who was doing the interview. I did as he told me to do. And then I realized that the employer cannot shoot us at all, as it was all online. If he were to shoot us, the bullet would not reach us, as he's not physically here. You don't say. What a stupid moment for us and my friends. And then we went out to a restaurant to eat something, including the friend whose eyes I had pulled out. I still paid the bill, which, of course, upset me. What reality is this story happening in? Then, another time, my friends and I had thought that we all had super speed, as everyone else was moving so slow. We pulled pranks on them, put stuff on their chairs before they sat down, etc. Then, we realized that we didn't have super speed, but in fact we were just dealing with very old people. And my friends and I were volunteering there for quite some time. One night, after we'd finished our food at a restaurant, I stood up for myself and said that I was not going to pay. My friends were complaining until they accepted that it would finally be their turn. It felt great. When I told the waiter to send the bill to my friends, the waiter looked at me confused. "Sir, you're eating at that table alone." That's when I began to realize that paying the bill might be the least of my worries. Well then, that one certainly got away from itself. I didn't know what to think while reading that. It was a bit confusing, but I suppose they recovered it in the end. Just imagine your entire reality being not everyone else's. What did you think of that story? Let me know in the comments beneath. As for me, I think that's enough for now. I do hope that you'll join me again for more Frail Blaze tales.